Hello and welcome to the Pladipus tutorial video, in which I will show you how to set up Pladipus, and I will also demonstrate a distributed sequence database search using this setup. What you see here is Xen Center. It's a tool to manage hardware virtualization. And for you, I have set up a network with a Windows controller and for Linux workers to show that it's platform independent and works on both Windows and Linux. So first off, let's go to the website. You can find it at the compomex.github.io website, and then find the Pladipus link down here somewhere. Here it is. And then go to the Pladipus demo. The first step, of course, is to install the framework, which can be done easily by downloading this installer if you want a user interface. But in the case of a headless installation, you need to download the zip folder for Linux or Windows and extract it in the user home. I had to do this, for example, on these workers, as it's command line only. I see our installer is downloaded already, so we can go ahead and open that up. You can skip this part. It's just some meta information on Pladipus, like the history and why we built it in the first place. But the first interesting part of the installer is the MySQL session. And here you need to fill in the correct IP of the machine that's hosting the MySQL service. In this case, it is the Windows machine here. It can be anything else. You specify the port and a password should the account require this. It does not have to be the root, but it needs some privilege rights. Now if you go ahead and test connection and the service is running at the specified location, it will ask you to import the Pladipus database. So if you click yes, it will automatically generate this database for you. And if you move on to the next part, which is the ActiveMQ part, we find the same type of settings. So you need to specify the correct host. And you might want to change this port to something like 61616 because it's also used by remote desktop, and it could be in use preventing Pladipus from connecting to it. There's also the option to install the server out of the box. So let's go ahead and do that. It will download the ActiveMQ server and update the configuration with the parameters you've specified, and it's optimized for the Pladipus network. So let's go ahead and start up this instance. It will generate a bat file on the desktop. So if you double click it, it will start. And you can verify your settings by checking this line as to where it's listening for connections on this port. And as soon as you see this line with the access to all mbeans is allowed, then you know that your server is running. Another way to know is to test the connection, of course. So the installer was able to connect to the ActiveMQ part. So now we can register a new user. So let's go ahead and register a Compomex user. Provide an email address. This email address will only be used to notify you should your run be finished or something went catastrophically wrong. So just provide a password as well. I hope I can remember it, but I think it's fine. Then we successfully created the user. Now what you want to do on a headless version is you want to find this Compomex folder in your user home and navigate to the config and verify these network properties. For example, and I did this on purpose just to show you that you can also do this manually should you have downloaded the zip folder. You can also edit these properties down here. and I believe we specified it to be 61616. So now we have updated properties as well. So now we have our ActiveMQ running, we have our MySQL running, we have a new user, we can install the manage mode, execution mode, or example tools. Now since this is the controller, we would want to install the management mode. So by clicking that, it will automatically do that. If you click OK, you will notice it has generated an icon on your desktop, a short link to the Pladipus. You can also install the execution mode should you have the wish to do so, and then it will ask you for your Pladipus username. I decided to implement it like this because otherwise you could have rogue machines hooking into your Pladipus network and pulling jobs that may or may not contain sensible information about your research. So for safety measures, I added this account feature. And of course you can install example tools. So now it's downloading Search GUI, Peptide Shaker, and Innova GUI for the correct operating system automatically. While it's doing this, let's go to the tutorial workers. You have to specify these in the command line. So the user and the password, as I mentioned, this is purely for safety reasons. So you know who is pulling jobs. You know it has to be something or someone trusted with a user account. So let's just start these up. You can find this command on the wiki, by the way, as well. And it should connect to the controller. Well, it won't do much now because we don't have any tasks launched. Meanwhile, the shortcut has been created. We have our example tools, everything's done. So we can go ahead and launch Pladipus and log in with our newly made account. Now, to create a run, you could go ahead and create a new run, which will bring up a user interface that allows you to set up everything or a pipeline of your own very easily. But for the demonstration, I would suggest to use the config file you can find at the website, which are the template file and the job configuration file. Now maybe I can explain what the difference between the two is. So the template file, if we open this up, is basically an XML file that describes what a job should look like. Another analogy to make would be an injection mold or a mold to form jobs out of. So you see you have three sections, which are the step, then the run parameters, and the job parameters. The steps are what the worker will be doing, and more importantly, the order in which it should do so. So it will set up the search, then run Search GUI, then run Peptide Shaker. Now, run parameters are in the mold because these never change. So for example, the FASTA file for job 1 will be the same as for job 2. Should it be not the case, then you have to move it to job specific parameters. Very important for the tutorial, and I have to stress this, is that the output folder is tailored to my setup here. So should you want to run this, you need to specify the path that is accessible by all your workers. So a central point of where the data should be heading, because you can also have them store this locally, but then you have to collate them at some point. So for me, I have a central storage for these 4 workers, and they can all be reached at this address. If you need help setting it up, you can always drop me an email, and I will be more than happy to help you out running the demo. Moving on to the example configuration file, and you see you have a tab separated file in which every column represents a parameter. Now if you remember, we had job parameters here. We had input, parameter file, and assay. These are the same you find in the column header, so input, parameter file, and assay. And every line will get converted into a job. So we have 3 parameters that are unique for each job. Good. Heading back to the user interface, we can finally import this run by selecting the template file, selecting the configuration file, and then we can choose the priority. If we slide it all the way to the left, this means it becomes pretty much a background task in which everything has more priority, so it will only run if there's nothing else on the queue. If we slide it to the other way, then only administrative tasks like a system update or things like that will have higher priority. So let's just keep it in the middle here and click create. So if you click it, you will see it loads all of the potential tasks that need to be run. And now our workers are waiting for them. So you can either select some processes, start them like this, or you could just go ahead and start the entire run like this. So now it has pushed all of them into the queue, and the workers are happily initializing the searching process. So if we move over here and see what they actually are doing, you see it's running the search setup step. Every step has a message like this, and it's also customizable. So in your own pipelines, you can describe what's going on. So every worker is now downloading a file to process. So in the meantime, I would like to stress that if you have any question or any difficulty setting up the system, I would be more than happy to help you in your specific hardware situation, because it's really hard to avoid any problems with the local configuration, such as firewalls and ports usage and stuff like that. As you can see now, it's running search GUI, so it's running tied at the moment, and it will continue doing so and pulling the tasks until they're all finished. This could take a while, so I'm not really sure if it's optimal to wait for that. So with this, I would like to end the demonstration, and hopefully you will be as enthusiastic as I was using Pladipus. And I hope to see you guys or hear from you in your future endeavors. Have a lot of fun with distributed computing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.